The stars had always watched over Earth. For thousands of years, humans gazed up at them, wondering if anyone gazed back. They did. From a distance of 40 light-years, the scanning arrays of the Galactic Hegemony detected unusual radio signals coming from the third planet of an average yellow star. The Hegemony, a powerful group of 7 alien species, had ruled this part of space for over 2,000 years. They had strict rules about finding new intelligent life. The signals showed tool-using beings, said senior observer Leth of the blue-skinned Verdani species. Their technology level suggests they are ready for contact. The Hegemony Council met in their Great Hall. Representatives from all 7 species sat at a round table made of a material that looked like glass, but was stronger than steel. "We should welcome these humans to our community," said Councillor Mur of the tree-like faucet species. "They have developed quickly." Admiral Krev was chosen to lead the first contact mission. Tall and gray-skinned with 4 arms, Krev had met new species before. The Meridians were known as the diplomats of the Hegemony. "We will follow standard protocol," Krev told his crew as their ship, the Peaceful Message, entered Earth's solar system. First observation, then communication, then landing. No weapons unless attacked. The Peaceful Message slipped past the outer planets unseen. Earth's primitive sensors could not detect ships using gravity-fold technology. Only when they reached orbit did they allow themselves to be seen. It was a spring morning in New York when the alien ship appeared. At first, people thought it was a strange cloud. Then it moved against the wind and stopped directly over the United Nations building. President Rin of the United World Council was called immediately. "Get me our top scientists and military leaders," she ordered, "and keep people calm." In orbit, Admiral Krev began the standard greeting procedure. "Activate the scanning beams," he ordered. "We need to analyze their biology before we can safely meet them." The Peaceful Message sent down bright blue beams that swept across major cities. The beams collected data on human biology, technology, and communications. To the Hegemony, this was a normal first step. To humans, it looked like targeting. "They're preparing to attack," shouted General Han at the emergency meeting. "Those beams are marking targets." Before President Rin could respond, several nations launched missiles at the alien ship. The missiles never reached their target. The Peaceful Message destroyed them easily with defensive fields. Admiral Krev was shocked. They attacked without provocation. This species is dangerously aggressive. The Peaceful Message backed away from Earth and sent an emergency message to the Hegemony Council. The humans responded with weapons, Krev reported when the Council gathered again. "They show no understanding of peaceful contact protocols. They are unpredictable and dangerous." The Council deliberated for less than an hour. "Earth will be quarantined," announced High Counselor Vesh. "No contact allowed until they prove themselves worthy of joining galactic society. Place warning buoys at the edge of their system." Unmanned buoys were positioned beyond the orbit of Mars. They were invisible to Earth technology, but would alert the Hegemony if any human ship tried to leave the solar system. 3 patrol ships were assigned to monitor the quarantine. On Earth, confusion turned to fear, then to determination. "We need to understand what happened," said President Rin, "and we need to prepare for their return." The world's nations, for once united by a common threat, poured money into space defense and research. Scientists studied recordings of the alien ship, trying to understand its technology. 6 months passed. The research vessel Morning Star, commanded by Captain Ta Kim, was testing a new engine design in the outer solar system. It was Earth's most advanced ship, though still very primitive compared to Hegemony vessels. "Engine tests successful," reported Engineer Jun. "We reached 10% light speed." Captain Kim smiled. "Let's push it to 15%. Take us out past Mars orbit." The Morning Star accelerated, unaware it was heading straight for the invisible boundary marked by the quarantine buoys. In the patrol ship Enforcer, Lieutenant Grek was bored. Watching humans was dull duty. "Alert," The ship's computer announced suddenly, Earth vessel approaching boundary. Greg sat up straight. Impossible. Their technology can't detect the boundary. Assessment. Accidental violation likely, the computer replied. Greg contacted his commander. Human ship approaching. Awaiting orders. The response was immediate. Standard protocol. Destroy the vessel. The 3 patrol ships surrounded the Morning Star. Captain Kim saw them appear as if from nowhere. All stop, she ordered. Open communications. Tell them we come in peace. But the hegemony ships did not respond. They fired energy weapons that cut through the Morning Star's hull like paper. The ship broke apart. Launch escape pods. Captain Kim shouted as the bridge filled with smoke. Only one pod escaped the destruction. Inside it, Navigation Officer Han clung to life as the small craft tumbled back toward Earth. 3 days later, military ships recovered the pod. Officer Han was barely alive. In a secure room deep under Seoul, Military Commander Sun Park listened to Han's report. His face remained calm, but his hands gripped the edge of the table until his knuckles turned white. They gave no warning, Han said weakly. We didn't even cross into their territory. They just destroyed us. Commander Park nodded slowly. When Han finished his story, Park walked to the window overlooking the underground base. Below, scientists were already studying pieces of alien technology recovered from the patrol ships during the brief battle. Park turned to face the assembled United Nations Security Council members. We are not alone in this universe, he said, his voice steady and determined. And our neighbors are not friendly. We have 2 choices: surrender to their quarantine, or fight for our right to exist among the stars. The room was silent. Then President Rin stood up. We will not be prisoners in our own solar system, she declared. Commander Park, you have full authority. Build us a fleet that can defend Earth. That day, humanity began preparing for a war they couldn't afford to lose. The stars had always watched Earth. Now, Earth would reach for the stars. Ready or not. 20 years had passed since the aliens destroyed the Morning Star. 20 years of hard work, sacrifice, and fear. The people of Earth had changed. Children grew up learning about alien threats alongside math and science. Factories that once made cars now built spaceship parts. Countries that once fought each other now worked together. Commander Hai Quan stood at the large window of Orbital Station 1, looking out at humanity's greatest achievement. The HSS Retribution floated in space before her, workers in spacesuits moving around its massive hull like tiny ants. The ship was huge, nearly 1 kilometer long, with smooth black armor plates that seemed to swallow light. 20 years of work, almost finished, said a voice behind her. Hai turned to see Jin Lee, the lead engineer on the Retribution project. His hair had turned gray during the years of building the ship. His hand showed the marks of someone who worked with tools despite his high position. Beautiful, isn't she? Jin said, coming to stand beside Hai at the window. Beautiful and necessary, Hai replied. She traced the outline of the ship with her finger against the glass. Will she be ready for the test flight next week? Jin nodded. The quantum drive is installed. We tested the plasma cannons yesterday. The shield generators are working at 95% efficiency. The ship represented everything humans had learned since first contact. When the aliens destroyed the Morning Star, they left tiny pieces behind. Earth scientists studied these fragments for years, learning alien technology bit by bit. They discovered how quantum drives could bend space. They learned how plasma weapons could cut through almost anything. Most importantly, they figured out how shield generators could protect a ship. President Min is coming tomorrow to see it, Hai said. He wants a full demonstration. Jin looked worried. We haven't tested everything together yet. The power systems will work perfectly, Hai finished for him. They have to. Later that night, Hai sat alone in her quarters reviewing crew assignments. The Retribution would need 500 people to operate properly. She had personally selected each one. Her computer screen flashed with an incoming message. Secure transmission from Earth Defense Command, it read. General Sun Park appeared on screen. 20 years older than when he first heard about the aliens, his face now showed deep lines, but his eyes remained sharp. Commander Kwan, how is our ship coming along? He asked. On schedule, General. Jin says we're ready for the full system test tomorrow. General Park nodded. Good. I've just received new intelligence from our deep space monitoring stations. The aliens are moving ships near the quarantine boundary, more than usual. I felt her stomach tighten. Do you think they know about the Retribution? It's possible. We've been careful, but their technology is still far beyond ours in many ways. The general paused. The president has made a decision. Once the tests are complete, you will take the Retribution beyond the quarantine line. I sat up straighter. Into alien space. That's sooner than planned. Yes, your mission will have two parts. First, show them that we can break their blockade. Show them our strength. Second, open talks with them. On our terms this time. I understand, sir. After the call ended, I walked back to the window. The Retribution's hull gleamed under the work lights. Would it be enough? 20 years of human ingenuity against an enemy that had traveled between stars for centuries. Far across the stars, the galactic hegemony was facing its own problems. The 7 species that ruled this part of space were arguing about Earth. Admiral Core of the Vel species pounded his fist on the council table. The Vel had tough red skin and stood nearly 3 meters tall. Known as warriors, they had the largest fleet in the hegemony. Humans are developing too quickly, Core shouted. Our monitoring stations show energy readings from their system that should be impossible for their level of development. We must strike now, before they become a real threat. High Counselor Mech of the Fozid raised his branch-like arm for silence. We don't attack developing species. That has been our law for 2,000 years. They attacked us first, Core reminded everyone. They fired weapons at a diplomatic vessel. Across the table, Intelligence Officer Tarn of the Meridian species listened quietly. Smaller than the Vel, with gray skin and 4 arms, Tarn had spent years studying humans. If I may speak, Tarn said when the shouting died down, my analysis shows strange gaps in human capabilities. Their power generation technology has advanced rapidly, but their weapons remain relatively primitive. Their ship designs don't match their theoretical knowledge. The council turned to listen. I believe they are hiding something, Tarn continued, or perhaps preparing something we don't understand. We should send another diplomatic mission to learn more before making decisions. Admiral Core laughed harshly. Another diplomatic mission. So they can attack it too. No, we should send warships instead. The council voted. 5 species chose to maintain the quarantine. Only the Meridians voted for diplomatic contact. The Vel alone voted for military action. The quarantine continues, announced High Counselor Mech, but we will increase patrols near Earth's system. After the meeting, Tarn walked slowly back to his office. Something about humans bothered him. They were advancing too fast in some areas, too slowly in others. It didn't make sense unless they had a specific plan. At his desk, Tarn reviewed the latest sensor readings from Earth's system. There was a large energy signature coming from what humans called Orbital Station 1. It flickered in and out of sensor range, as if something was hiding it. What are you building up there? Tarn whispered to himself. Back at Earth's orbital shipyard, Commander Hai Quan received her official orders. She gathered her crew in the Retribution's main hall. 500 men and women stood at attention, wearing the new dark blue uniforms of Earth's United Space Force. In 1 week, we launch, she told them. Our mission is clear. We will cross the quarantine line that has kept humanity prisoner in our own solar system for 20 years. We will show the aliens that humans are not easily contained. She paused, looking at their faces. But we are not going to start a war, she continued. The Retribution carries weapons, yes, but it also carries diplomats and scientists. We seek understanding, not conquest. We want our rightful place among the stars. As her crew prepared the ship for its final tests, Hai walked alone through its corridors. She ran her hand along the smooth walls, feeling the slight hum of power beneath them. 20 years, she whispered. Let's hope we got it right. The HFY Retribution moved silently through space, its black hull hard to see against the darkness. Inside the ship, 500 crew members worked at their stations. Some felt fear, others excitement. All felt the weight of what they were about to do. On the bridge, Captain Hai-Quan sat in the command chair. The large view screen in front of her showed stars and empty space, but she knew what waited ahead. The alien blockade that had kept humans trapped in their own solar system for 20 years. 5 minutes until we reach the quarantine boundary, said Navigation Officer Ma Yun. Her hands moved quickly over the control panel. All systems running normally. Hai nodded. Engineering. Status report. Quantum drive at full power, came the reply from Jin Li, speaking through the ship's communication system. Shield generators ready. Weapons systems on standby, but not active, as ordered. Hai had been clear about that. They would not fire first. The Retribution carried enough firepower to destroy small moons, but this mission was not about starting a war. Communications. Any signal from the blockade? Hai asked. Communications Officer Sung Park shook his head. Nothing yet, Captain. They don't know we're coming. The bridge grew quiet. Only the soft beeping of computers broke the silence. 2 minutes to boundary, Mai announced. Hai pressed a button on her chair. All crew, this is Captain Quan. We are about to make history. For 20 years, aliens have kept us prisoners in our own solar system. Today, we break free. Not with violence, but with human ingenuity. Stay focused on your duties. Trust your training. She looked at the faces of her bridge crew. Young men and women who had trained for years for this moment. Quantum drive disengaging in 3, 2, 1, said Nai. We've arrived at the quarantine boundary. The view screen changed. Now they could see the hegemony blockade. 12 alien warships forming a line across their path. The alien ships were smaller than the Retribution, but had more weapons. Each one could destroy entire cities. For a moment, nothing happened. The alien ships continued their patrol, not noticing the human vessels sitting just beyond their sensor range. They haven't seen us yet, whispered Sung. Then a red light flashed on his panel. Enemy scanners have detected us, Sung reported, his voice rising slightly. They're scrambling response teams. 3 ships are moving to intercept position. On the view screen, they could see the alien vessels turning toward them, lights flashing along their hulls. Instead of looking worried, Hai smiled. This is exactly what we expected. Activate Shield Harmonics Sequence Alpha. Shield Harmonics Alpha activated, reported Defense Officer Jack Kim. The lights on the bridge dimmed slightly as power redirected to the shield systems. But these weren't normal shields designed to block weapons. These were special shields that Jin had created after studying alien technology for years. What's happening? May asked, looking at her instruments. The shield is bending light and energy around us, Jay explained. It's also creating false energy signatures that will confuse their tracking systems. On the view screen, they could see the alien ships changing direction, moving to different positions as if confused about where to go. It's working, said Sung. Their communications show confusion. They're reporting multiple contacts, all moving in different directions. Hai nodded. Ahead slow. Take us right between the 2 largest ships. The Retribution moved forward, its massive hull gliding between the alien vessels. At one point, they passed so close to an alien ship that the crew could see individual windows on its hull. They still can't get a solid lock on us, Sung reported, listening to the alien communications. Their sensors show 5 different human ships, all moving in different patterns. Once we're past the main blockade, increase speed, Hai ordered. Set course for the Hegemony diplomatic station in the Proxima system. Aboard the Hegemony command ship Enforcer, Intelligence Officer Tarn watched his monitor with growing disbelief. The human ship had appeared suddenly at the edge of the quarantine zone, a massive vessel larger than any they had predicted humans could build. "How did they get a ship that size past our long-range scanners?" demanded Commander Loth, the Vel officer in charge of the blockade. "Unknown, Commander," replied a sensor operator. "Wait, we're now detecting multiple human vessels. 5, no, 7 contacts." Tarn studied the readings carefully. Something wasn't right. The energy patterns were too similar. "It's one ship," Tarn said quietly. "They're using some kind of shield technology to create false readings." Commander Loth turned to him, yellow eyes wide with surprise. "That's impossible. Their technology level couldn't produce such shields." "Evidently it could," Tarn replied. On the main display, they watched as the sensors showed multiple human ships moving in different directions. The blockade ships changed course repeatedly, trying to intercept targets that kept disappearing and reappearing elsewhere. "Order all ships to fire on any confirmed contact," Loth shouted. "But sir," Tarn objected, "they haven't fired on us. They're simply passing through. They are violating the quarantine. That is an act of war." By the time the order went out, it was too late. The human ship had passed through the blockade line. Now it accelerated, moving deeper into hegemony space. "Track them," Loth demanded. "Impossible," said the sensor operator. "Their shield technology is interfering with our tracking systems." Tarn watched the readings with growing interest. The human ship could have fired weapons. Their trajectory had brought them within optimal firing range of at least 3 blockade ships, but they hadn't fired a single shot. "What are they doing?" Commander Loth asked, more to himself than anyone else. "Based on their course," Tarn said, studying the last reliable readings, "they appear to be heading toward Proxima System, toward our diplomatic station." Commander Loth's face showed shock, then fear. He rushed to the communications console and pushed aside the operator. "This is Commander Loth to Hegemony Council. Emergency priority," he said, his voice shaking. "Send priority transmission to all council members." Enemy scanners confirmed the worst. A human warship just arrived. "I repeat, a human warship has broken through the quarantine and is heading toward Proxima System." Tarn continued studying the sensor readings of the human ship. They had developed much faster than anyone had predicted. But more interesting was what they chose not to do. They could have attacked but didn't. "Fascinating," Tarn whispered to himself. "Perhaps we've misunderstood you all along." The Hess Retribution dropped out of faster-than-light travel near the Proxima System. Ahead of them floated a large space station, shaped like a wheel with spokes connecting to a central hub. This was the Hegemony Diplomatic Station, where representatives from hundreds of worlds came to discuss trade, borders, and treaties. Captain High stood on the bridge, watching the station grow larger on the view screen. Around her, the crew worked quietly at their stations. They had broken through the blockade without firing a shot. But everyone knew the hardest part was still ahead. "We're being scanned," reported Defense Officer Jia. "Multiple weapon systems are targeting us." "Let them scan," High replied calmly. "Do not raise shields or power weapons." Several smaller ships moved to intercept the Retribution, their weapons visibly charged and ready. "They're hailing us," said Communications Officer Sung. "The message is, not friendly. Human vessel, you have violated hegemony space. Power down all systems and prepare to be boarded or face immediate destruction," came the translation through the speakers. High nodded to Ambassador Suhan, who had joined them on the bridge. The ambassador was in her 60s, with silver hair and a calm face that showed no fear. "Open a channel," Ambassador Han said. "All frequencies." Sung pressed several buttons on his console. "Channel open." Ambassador Han stood straight and spoke clearly. "This is Ambassador Suhan of Earth. We request parley. Under Section 12 of the Hegemony Charter of Rights, we invoke the right of all sentient species to petition for redress of grievances." There was silence for several long moments. Then a different voice responded. "Human vessel, Remain in position. Do not approach closer to the station. A council session will consider your request. Hai and Ambassador Han exchanged looks. The mention of the Hegemony Charter showed knowledge of their laws that the aliens wouldn't expect humans to have. 20 years of studying fragments of alien data had paid off. Inside the diplomatic station, alarms sounded throughout the halls. Council members were rushed from their quarters to the emergency chamber. The 7 species of the ruling hegemony gathered around a large circular table. "This is unprecedented," said Councillor Mech of the plant-like Fosid. "No quarantine species has ever broken through a blockade before." "Because no quarantine species has ever been allowed to develop this far," shouted Admiral Kor of the Vel. His red skin had darkened with anger. "I warned you all. Now they come with a warship to threaten us." "They have not fired weapons," noted Councillor Lith of the Crystalline Zent. "If their intention was war, why come to our diplomatic station?" "To destroy it, obviously." Kor pounded the table. "To show their power by eliminating our leaders." "Then why haven't they fired yet?" asked Councillor Jeff of the Aquatic Moor. "Their ship has remained stationary for 20 minutes now." The debate continued, with 4 species arguing that they should hear what the humans had to say, while 3 demanded immediate military action. In his small office below the council chamber, Intelligence Officer Tarn worked quickly. The appearance of a human warship had created confusion, giving him access to files normally restricted. He had long suspected something wasn't right about the first contact with Earth. Now he had a chance to find out. Tarn's 4 hands moved across multiple screens, bypassing security protocols and accessing archived mission reports from the Peaceful Messages journey to Earth 20 years ago. Most of the information matched what he already knew, but then he found something strange. A set of communications between Admiral Krev and an unknown contact before the first meeting with humans. "Adjust scanning beam frequency to match human weapons targeting systems. Read 1 message. Ensure defensive response." Tarn sat back, shocked. The scanning beams had been deliberately adjusted to appear threatening to humans. Someone had wanted the first contact to fail. Further digging revealed more evidence. The destruction of the human science vessel 6 months later had not been standard protocol. Special orders had been given to destroy it completely, leaving just enough survivors to spread fear on Earth. "By the stars," Tarn whispered. The initial diplomatic disaster was sabotage. Meanwhile, on the diplomatic station's main docking bay, Ambassador Suhan stepped out of a small shuttle from the Retribution. 2 officers in Earth's dark blue uniforms walked beside her. Through the large viewport behind them, the massive human warship hung in space, visible to everyone in the docking bay. Station security personnel, representing 3 different hegemony species, surrounded the human delegation. They were led to the council chamber through corridors lined with more guards. In the council chamber, Ambassador Han stood calmly before the 7 council members. The room was large and circular, with representatives from dozens of other species watching from elevated seats around the walls. "Earth seeks neither war nor conquest," Ambassador Han began, her voice steady. "We seek understanding and fair treatment. 20 years ago, there was a misunderstanding between our peoples. We are here to correct that misunderstanding." "Misunderstanding?" Admiral Kor interrupted. "You fired weapons at a diplomatic vessel. After your ship used what appeared to be targeting scanners on our major cities," Ambassador Han replied. "We were not aware of your protocols. We interpreted your actions as the beginning of an attack." She activated a small device she had brought with her. A hologram appeared above the council table, showing Earth's rapid technological development over the past 20 years. "We have learned much since then," she continued. "We have studied your technology, your languages, your cultures. We know you better than you know us." The council members watched in silence as the hologram showed Earth ships, defense systems, and cities protected by energy shields similar to hegemony technology. "We propose a new relationship," Ambassador Han said. "End the quarantine. Allow Earth to join the galactic community as equals, not as prisoners. Why should we trust you? Asked Counselor Mech. You come with a warship to make these demands. Not demands. Proposals. Ambassador Han gestured to the viewport where the Retribution was visible. And yes, we came with a warship because we needed to break your blockade to reach you. But notice what we have not done. We have not fired a single weapon, despite multiple opportunities to do so. As the council debated among themselves, Tarn slipped into the chamber and approached High Counselor Mech. He whispered something in the counselor's ear and handed him a data device. Mech's plant-like features showed no emotion, but his branches trembled slightly as he reviewed the information. He signaled for silence in the chamber. We must recess this session, he announced. The council needs to review new information in private. As guards escorted Ambassador Han and her officers to a waiting area, the Retribution remained in position near the station. Inside the ship, Captain Hai and her crew watched and waited. They could have destroyed the station at any moment, but instead they stood guard, protecting their ambassador while she attempted to bring peace. Do you think they'll listen? Mei asked quietly. Hai watched the diplomatic station on the view screen. They'll listen, she replied, because we've given them no choice but to see us as equals now. The Hegemony Council debated through the night. Ambassador Han and her officers waited in a small room outside the council chamber, while Captain Hai and the crew of the Retribution stood ready on their ship. Tarn's discovery had changed everything. The evidence he found showed that someone had deliberately sabotaged the first contact with humans. Secret messages proved that the scanning beams used by the peaceful message had been set to match human weapons frequencies. The destruction of the science vessel had been planned, not a standard response to quarantine violation. Who would do this? Counselor Mech asked as they reviewed the evidence in private. All eyes turned to Admiral Kor of the Vel. His species had always pushed for military solutions. This is nonsense, Kor growled, his red skin darkening. These records are fake. They carry authentication codes that cannot be faked, Tarn replied calmly. Someone wanted humans to be seen as dangerous. Someone wanted them isolated. When morning came, the council called Ambassador Han back to hear their decision. She stood before them, showing no sign of the long night of waiting. High Counselor Mech spoke first. The Hegemony Council has reached a decision, though not a unanimous one. 4 species, the Fosid, Meridian, Zent, and more, vote to accept human diplomatic relations. The Teklan and Gorv remain neutral. The Vel, he glanced at Admiral Kor, oppose any contact with humans. We accept this decision, Ambassador Han said with a small bow. Earth is ready to join the galactic community as a peaceful member. There will be conditions, Mech continued. Your ships must follow hegemony travel protocols. Your technology must be shared with our scientific communities, and the Retribution must return to Earth space. Ambassador Han nodded. We agree to your terms with one addition of our own. The sabotage of our first contact must be fully investigated, and those responsible must face justice. The council members shifted uncomfortably, but most nodded in agreement. Then let us formally end the quarantine of Earth, said Mech. From this day forward, humans err. A loud alarm cut off his words. Red lights flashed throughout the chamber. What is happening? Mech demanded. A security officer rushed into the room. 3 Vel warships have broken formation. They are moving toward the human vessel with weapons active. All eyes turned to Admiral Kor, who stood up from his seat. I will not allow this, he snarled. Humans must learn their place. On the bridge of the Retribution, warning lights flashed across control panels. 3 Vel ships approaching fast, reported Ma Yun. They've left the defensive line around the station. We're detecting energy buildup in Vel vessels, added Dai Choi, the weapons officer. His hands hovered over his console. They're preparing to fire. Weapons range in 30 seconds. Captain Hai sat calmly in her command chair. The crew looked to her for direction. 20 years of training had prepared them for this moment. Open channel to the Vel ships, Hai ordered. Channel open, replied Sung. Vel vessels, this is Captain Quan of the HSS Retribution. We have no hostile intent. Please return to your positions. The only response was silence. 20 seconds to weapons range, Day reported. Their weapons are fully charged. Hai made her decision. Activate defensive protocols. Shields to maximum. Power to absorption systems. She paused, then added firmly, no return fire. I repeat, no return fire. The crew moved quickly to follow her orders. The Retribution systems hummed with power as shields strengthened around the massive ship. 5 seconds. Dai counted down. 4, 3, 2, 1. The Vel ships fired. Bright beams of energy and glowing plasma torpedoes streaked across space toward the Retribution. The bridge crew watched on their view screen as death approached their ship. But the weapons never hit. As each plasma torpedo neared the Retribution's hull, it seemed to slow, then spiral into shimmering vortices that appeared in the shield. The energy beams bent and curved, also disappearing into the vortices. Shield absorption at 60%, reported Jia Kim from the defense station. All attacks successfully contained. The Vel ships fired again, launching more torpedoes. Again, the Retribution's special shields captured the energy instead of just blocking it. We could destroy them, Da noted quietly. His hand hovered over the weapons console, ready to return fire. Captain Hai shook her head. That's not why we're here. In the council chamber, everyone watched the attack on large screens. They saw the Vel ships fire, and they saw the human ship absorb the attacks without damage. Most importantly, they saw that the humans did not fire back. Ambassador Han stood calmly amid the chaos. When the second wave of Vel weapons was absorbed, she turned to address the stunned council. What you are seeing is the true purpose of the Retribution, she said. It isn't primarily a weapon of war. It's a self-sufficient colony vessel with defensive capabilities. The shield technology doesn't just block attacks, it captures their energy and adds it to our own power systems. She activated her hologram device again, showing the internal layout of the Retribution. The council members saw living quarters for thousands, farms, schools, manufacturing areas, and science labs. We built the Retribution to survive, not to conquer, Ambassador Han explained. If you had destroyed Earth, this ship could have carried our species forward. Instead, we hope it will carry us into peaceful relations with yours. Admiral Kor stormed out of the chamber. On the screens, the Vel ships finally stopped firing and moved away. In the days that followed, formal treaties were signed between Earth and the hegemony. The quarantine was officially ended. Human ships would be allowed to travel through hegemony space, and alien ships would visit Earth for the first time. The Vel withdrew from these agreements, returning to their own systems in protest. But the remaining hegemony species began establishing trade and cultural exchanges with humans. Captain Hai and the Retribution returned to Earth as heroes. When asked by reporters about the battle, Hai simply said, "There was no battle, just a demonstration of who we choose to be." Across the stars, the story spread of the human ship that could have destroyed its attackers but chose not to. Humans remained feared for their ingenuity and resilience in the face of isolation. But they also gained respect for something the hegemony had not expected: their restraint. In his new office on Earth's first alien embassy, Tarn met with Ambassador Han to discuss future relations. "Why didn't you fire back?" he asked her. "Your ship clearly had the capability." Ambassador Han smiled. "Because sometimes the most powerful message isn't what you do," she replied. "It's what you choose not to do." The end.